right, y'all, welcome back. We are here with episode 7 of our podcast, and today we are talking about nutritional periodization. And if you don't know what that is, it's essentially all the different phases of your, I guess, health and wellness, your nutrition cycles. Essentially, what they're going to be are your fat loss phases, your maintenance phases, and should you choose to, which most general people probably don't need it, your bulking phases. So I think we're going to be brushing mostly on maintenance and fat loss phases. We can touch a little bit on bulking phases, but again, for most general lay population, that's not even something that you really need to do because most of you do it on accident anyways when you have the case of your fuckets.
Right.
Which has led you to your excessive weight gain, unfortunately, because at the end of the day, calories in versus calories out is a thing. Calories will always remain king, and you cannot outrun or outsmart the law of thermodynamics. As much as you think that you can, you cannot. So there's
No.
that.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I had no idea what it was back then. Had
Yeah.
no idea, because I feel like most of us, that have yo-yo dieted or have lived in extremes, done the extreme dieting, exercising, etc. There's no such thing as a phase. For some reason, we think fat loss lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
Or it's either you enter fat loss and then you enter in and then you go back into fuckets.
Yeah. Two extremes, right? We
Mm-hmm.
go do the diet, do all the things, and then once we stop, you really, if you've done the yo-yo dieting, the extreme dieting, you don't understand why, and so you just go back to normal, air quotes, normal. So what you used to do before you went on said name diet, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're back to square one again, right? And
Yep.
so something that like I can touch on just based on my personal experience was not actually ever having lived at true maintenance, like, a range, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but I never knew what maintenance felt like when you're just maintaining your weight. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're tracking, not tracking, but your weight isn't going up, down, up, down. You're not losing the same 10, 15 pounds over and over and over again. And to now looking back, honestly, if one thing that I can take away from it is learning to live at maintenance has a far greater, I think, importance, and it's a factor in all of this over just entering a fat loss phase and, learning about calories, all of that stuff. That comes with everything, but just learning to live at maintenance for me, and I think for my clients, and I'm sure your clients, really does help you set yourself up for success when you do choose to enter a fat loss phase.
Correct. Because let's be honest with you, maintenance is probably the hardest, but also could be the funnest cycle or phase that you can go into. But it's also going to take a lot of mindset, mind shifting, managing expectations, because it can be one of the hardest ones because you don't have a really specific goal in mind, like fat loss or body aesthetics. So this is the place where you learn and build those foundational habits because most of you were living in maintenance when you had the fuckets, but I like to say a controlled maintenance because you're actually visually seeing what you're doing. You're also quantifying what you're doing because I don't think a lot of people, and I myself included, ever learned how to live in a proper maintenance phase.
Yeah.
But that's where you also have to understand that that's where you shift your goals from aesthetic goals like being your leanest self to maybe becoming your strongest self. Or, like I said before, building those foundational habits, learning how to be flexible with your nutrition, because that's the best place to find it.
Yeah, 100%. Also, learning emotional regulation, learning how to uh, basically manage or navigate, incidents where you do tend to overeat, or, what we commonly refer to as binge is over consuming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we have stress or whatever situation that's going on in your life that keeps you in your comfort zone. And so you reach for that, you reach for food. it really, being in maintenance really does allow you more flexibility and kind of that space and grace, to be able to figure that out for yourself and to go through that process and learn those skills and really acquire the tools that you need to get you through that. Can it happen in fat loss? For sure. Is it more
But it's
difficult?
harder.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It can be. It really is.
Because you have to
Uh,
think of it this way, there's so many different moving parts in a fat loss phase. Now, if you try to add learning how to do all the things in your fat loss phase, there's such a higher possibility for overwhelm for like a
yes.
newbie, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, why not try to learn those things in maintenance and make your fat loss phases so much easier? Because you've already had those like under your belt. You've attacked them. You know how to check those check marks off almost flawlessly.
Yeah. And you know what? Hey, like, do we as coaches prefer, again, each client, it depends, but do we prefer that you do kind of learn what maintenance is and what that looks like for you, even just to get a baseline of where you're at, what you're eating? Really, even that, when you start working with a coach, isn't always accurate because you're just going to make different decisions, right? Now that
Mm-hmm.
you're tracking, you're working with a coach, but at least you get somewhat of a baseline. Um, and you know what? Some people are going to come into it, and if fat loss is what they want to enter into a fat loss phase. Maybe they're doing, like, I have a client who's doing all the things and the movement, the strength training, um, and maybe that's going to work for them. At the end of the day, though, the principles are the same. Like you said, you got
Mm-hmm.
to get those foundational habits
Mm-hmm.
down, right?
Right. Because a client can
Um,
come to you all day long and ask for fat loss, and we can give it to them. But if you also are not learning the other side of the spectrum, which is maintenance, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You have to learn both sides of the coin.
at some point, for sure, you have to, because again, I don't want to speak for you, but we've both been through that. Our history is the yo-yo dieting, right?
Yeah, yeah,
To
absolutely.
whatever degree. And we didn't learn that. We didn't learn what fat loss was, what maintenance was. And even going through this process myself the last 3.5 years, I truly didn't really grasp fat loss and maintenance. And to a certain degree, I was scared to go into maintenance, fearing that I was actually going to gain weight.
Yeah, you're going to
um
undo everything you did because that was notorious. Like, that's our notorious backstory. That is the narrative that we've always had.
Right, right. And it wasn't until I actually did it and practiced it that I was like, oh, wow, I love this. And I did not want to go back into my dedicated fat loss phases.
Mm-hmm.
Again, something I hadn't done before either was just choosing to go into dedicated fat loss phases where I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I need to do. I'm going to get in, get out. This is a specific time frame that I'm going to do it for. Something that a lot of us, I feel, don't do, right? it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's just we live in this, what is it, the calorie deficit or a diet
Mm-hmm.
mindset or brain, where
Mm-hmm.
we're constantly thinking we're in fat loss, but really we talk about the Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday, and
Mm-hmm.
then back to fuck itville we go. And
Mm-hmm.
population me, no, you, no, and millions of others. But and so you feel like you've been dieting, but really you're only dieting for 3-4 days, and then you're moving yourself into maintenance or a surplus, which I found myself doing initially as well, until I understood evidence-based nutrition and started immersing myself into it and started tracking and understanding calories and what they
Correct.
equate to. So yeah, go ahead.
So ultimately, okay, so what Dal is trying to say here is that you may think that you're in a calorie deficit, right? So Monday through Friday, I'm not even gonna say Friday because half the time, y'all,
No.
it's like the Friday turn up for y'all, okay? So Monday through Thursday, you're in a fat loss phase. You're hitting your calorie range. Let's say your calorie range is 1500. So some days you're at 14, some days you're at 16, but you're still within that range, right? So Monday through Thursday, cool, spot on. Now comes Friday. You're good Friday afternoon until 5 o'clock. Then the homegirls call you and they say, hey, let's go out to the wineries. Now your 1,500 calorie budget has become 2,000. Okay. That's one day, right? But then now the party continues on Saturday, where now you guys are going out, and then now you've consumed 2,000 to 2,500 calories. And then Sunday,
More.
same thing. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm giving people a little bit of credit. Yeah, trying to be nice about it. I'm gonna assume they're probably also skipping meals to try to
Yeah.
accommodate and compensate. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
like 2,000 to 2,500, but it's very easy to go 3,000 in a day. I can do
Oh
that.
my
I could
God.
take it
Yeah.
to Pound Town all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Happens
literally
often.
all it takes is one plate of food from a restaurant, a couple drinks, a couple chips, some guac, some salsa, some queso. You're done. You're there. You're at the 3,000. So it's
Yeah.
really not
Easy.
hard. You can do
Easy.
it in
Yeah.
blink and it's done.
Yep. Yep.
So the problem with that is that it's a range. At the end of the week, it's those 7 days. So whatever that average is, if you can calculate it, let's just say 15 times 4 plus your 2,500, 2,500, 2,500. Now you divide that by 7 after you've added it all up. Now you've basically been at maintenance.
Yeah.
You've basically
Yeah.
been at 1,800 to 2,000, maybe
Yeah.
even a surplus if that's not even your freaking calorie budget. So that's where the problem really lies. And Dal brought up a very good point about the get in and get out. I don't think a lot of you understand that. And I didn't understand that either. Your dedicated fat loss phases. And we're going to say dedicated because these are times like where you specifically block out these specific phases for yourself. Okay. Your dedicated fat loss phases, I personally only like to take one a year, but that's because I'm already fairly lean. Now, people who have a little bit or a lot more weight to lose, can they take more fat loss phases throughout the year? Absolutely. Yes, they can. But for somebody who's already fairly lean, I only recommend about one a year because honestly, you're going to be spinning your wheels. So I like to pick anywhere from 8 to 16 weeks. For somebody, again, fairly lean. You pick the date, you pick the start date, you get in, you do it as best as you can with as much consistency as you can. Hopefully, you're about 80% consistent, maybe more if you want to be really strict about it, and then get the fuck out. And then you take
Right.
your ass right back to maintenance because maintenance is where you should be living a majority of the time. So I take about a 12 to 16 week fat loss phase. The whole remainder of the year, I'm in maintenance, a dedicated maintenance phase.
And you might stay there for the rest of your life. You might never go into a fat loss phase, right?
Yeah.
Like, and something that, Carmi, I want to touch on when it comes to periodization here. So again, it depends. Like this is just my opinion and what I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
The getting in, getting out, I didn't get there right away. Like, first of all, I had a lot of weight to lose, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I was going through a lot of trial and error. I was in the deficit mindset. So I was going in, coming out. I was consistent, adherent for a certain amount of time. Then I wasn't. Then I was. Then I chose to go into maintenance. So because I had a lot to lose, there's more flexibility built in, even right from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for some, it might not look like that right off the bat. Like, I know I can speak for my clients. You know, some people do have a lot of weight to lose. And for some, it's learning and unlearning. And that process might take like 8 months, 6 to 8
Mm-hmm.
months. And maybe you'll lose 15 pounds in that time, because you're learning about phases and what that looks like for you. And maybe you have vacations, maybe you have moments where, you know, as a coach, we say, okay, let's just move into maintenance while you're going on vacation, or you have this thing going on in your life. um, and they don't necessarily understand or are even, I think, mentally prepared, ready to go into a quote unquote dedicated fat loss phase where you get in, get out,
Mm-hmm.
where you're really, like you and we're I'd say close to, 95% adherent and consistent with that fat loss phase,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and the closer we get, the closer you get to your goal weight, it's going to be even more crucial that you are more dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, is this ideally where we want to be? Yes. Are you going to start there? Maybe not. Right. It
Mm-hmm.
might mean, for some clients, like I've been working with for just, under a year, and we're still learning, and we're just getting into those quote unquote dedicated phases,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Where they're saying, yes, like, I'm ready to do this. This is a time frame I want to do it for now. Having learned, unlearned, worked on, emotional regulation, emotional eating, all these other things that come with calories in, calories out.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's going to look different for everyone. And
Correct.
this getting in, getting out, and being dialed in might not be something that you do right off the bat, because
Hmm.
it does kind of encompass, it doesn't encompass the all or nothing mindset in the traditional way, where I feel like, we feel like we have to do it all, otherwise we're going to fail. It's more so that we now have not only worked on that mindset, but we understand what that looks like for us.
Right.
And we don't want to be in it longer than we have to be, because
Hmm.
of, I know for me, because of where I'm at, like, I can say, I just want to do this for 8 to 10 weeks. That's it.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you want to expand on that. What are your opinions? How do you feel?
No, I
If
think
you want
that's
to
a
share that.
great point because everybody's starting point is going to be different. And that's what basically I got from what you were saying is that getting in and getting out looks different for everybody, right? But essentially, that getting in and getting out mentality is just to set the expectations that you're going to enter into something, sign that contract, and get out of that contract. So that way you can go back to learning about all those other foundational things. And also, too, I'm going to speak on it for myself is that getting in and getting out also helps with my mental state, knowing that because I took a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? I took a very deep deficit. I took a very,
Mm-hmm.
um, God,
Aggressive.
my brain right now, the brain
Yeah.
fog. But I took
Yeah.
I took a really hard fat loss phase this time around because I knew I could mentally handle it. But
Yes.
me being able to tell myself, get in, get out, set the start date, set the end date, because I know like, listen, Carmi, it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard. You're going sub 800 calories from what you're normally doing. It's going to
Yep.
be pretty gritty at first. It's going to suck at first, but understand that you have a start date and you have an end time. And you only have to grind it out for those 12 weeks. And I also had set, because at the time we were going to Vegas too, I had set what I like to do as a diet break where I went
Right.
back to maintenance.
Oh,
Oh, puppy.
sorry.
That's
That's
okay. What
aw.
happened, Daddy?
Okay, I'm just gonna pause this for a minute.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Oh,
All right,
oh,
guys,
okay.
we're back. That's okay. So last episode was me and now it's Dal, but that's okay. This is real life,
Yep.
okay? And if we have to take a pause again, we will, because this is also about mom life. It is what it
Ex-
is.
exactly. My little one came in here crying. I'm sure him and his brother,
They're
something
probably
happened.
fighting,
He
but
don't
he's
want to talk about
self-soothing.
it.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
He's just sitting in the corner here, so
He just
it's
needed
all good.
he needed mama energy. That's it. He just needs to be in the same room as you. It's all good. I understand.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So sorry.
So
Do you
that's
remember where
okay.
we were
I
at?
do. I do. So
Okay.
going back to my
Okay.
point of setting that timeline of getting in and getting out can mean so many different things for each individual, right? But for most people, it's going to be just to be able to set that expectation of this is where I have to just dial in for a little bit. I got to dial in for a little bit. It's not for forever because, again, everybody has grown up thinking we have to be in this perpetual fat loss phase. That's what we were taught, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have to. And there's also so many things that can go wrong with you living or wanting to live in that perpetual fat loss phase, which is why I personally promote the get in, get out. And for you, it's
Yeah.
also the same thing, depending on where your clients are at, right? Get in, get out, and be done with it. And almost essentially what I'm gathering is what you do with some of your clients that have that mindset work still to do is you almost give them diet breaks where you're like, okay, now we reset. And that
Yep.
reset time doesn't have to be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. If it's your client that has a lot of mindset things that needs to happen and also still a lot of weight to lose, they can afford to do that. They can get in and out of cycles because they have a lot of wiggle room for that fat loss, whereas the lean person doesn't. So you have to understand
Mm-hmm.
where you're at. So if you are that person who has a lot of body fat to lose, your phases can look really different. You can take a lot of different phases throughout the year. But if you're somebody that's more lean, yes, you are going to have to be more dialed in. Yes, you are going to probably only want to take one or two fat loss phases. But then again, that's where a coach comes in handy because they can help you have an outside perspective on it and be like, I don't know. Because also, too, your mindset and the season of life matters on when you take these fat loss phases or these dedicated fat loss phases, because you and I have both talked about it before. Like, I kind of know when to call it because when I'm really starting to,
Sorry.
that's
Yeah.
okay. When I'm starting to mentally check out, even though I set like a 16-week phase, if after 12 weeks I'm not mentally there anymore, I know it's time to call it because I also
Right.
know that I've got time. I've got time on my
Yes.
side, meaning I'm not going to give up on this. I've got next
Right.
year and it's not a big deal. Like, we already did a lot of work. I got successful results. There's no like timeline when I have to be finished. And there's also no set specific goal that I have to lose X amount of weight. I have to be X size. And that's what I think a lot of people forget also. Like, you set
Mm-hmm.
this goal. Oh, I got to lose 10. I saw somebody on Thread say, how do I lose, what did they say? 15 pounds in 6 weeks. And it took all of my self control to not be like, sis, no. Like,
Wow. Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Why? What about the 15 pounds in 6 weeks is going to make a difference for you? How is it going to make you show up differently to whatever it is that you need to show up for?
Right. Yeah, and you're right. Like with the something I learned as well for myself, which was really empowering, was that I can choose. Like I can choose to get into a fat loss phase
Mm-hmm.
and I can choose to stay in maintenance. And so when I say it's taken me 3.5 years to be, to be where I'm at, it's not 3.5 years of a consistent deficit. It was just choosing to stay in maintenance. And then I was in also, I want to touch on this, I was in a deficit for a very long time, except my range. So for some people, their deficit range might never change from when they start to when they finish their deficit. When you do have a lot more weight to lose,
Mm-hmm.
you might just stay in that range right
Mm-hmm.
up until the end, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing to say that you cannot be in a deficit for whatever period of time you want to be in. It depends. Again, it depends. It depends on how
Mm-hmm.
much weight you have to lose or fat you have to lose. I know I always refer to it as weight because that's what we commonly,
Mm-hmm.
most people refer to it as, but so it depends. You can, so there's some people that might be in a fat loss phase for like 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like
Right.
it just depends on your circumstances. I think what we're really trying to specify and differentiate here for you all is let's not jump from, you know, being in this kind of diet mindset and
Mm-hmm.
believing you're in one and then constantly throwing yourself out of it because it does get overwhelming and exhausting and mentally fatiguing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no way to, just live your life
Right. And the
at the end of the
problem
day.
too, though, is so again, differentiating between the person who has a ton of weight, and we're talking like 60 plus pounds to lose,
Mm-hmm.
versus the person who wants to lose 10 or 15 pounds, right? If you're that lean person that stays in a diet phase for a year, now that becomes dangerous because
Yep.
essentially your metabolism is going to catch up with your deficit. So now you're going to either have to A, move more, or B,
Mm-hmm.
eat less, or C, both. So then now if you're becoming like 1200, under 1200 calories just to create that deficit, now that becomes a touchy subject for me personally as a coach. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you why are we pushing for this? Why can't we go back to a controlled dedicated maintenance phase where we build more muscle or do something else other than fat loss? Now, on the other side of that spectrum is the person who has a ton of weight to lose, 60, 80, 100 pounds. Can they do that? Yes. Because like you
Mm-hmm.
said, their metabolism might not catch up, or we can continue to drop the calories and still keep it safe and also not
Right.
give them that environment where it feels so overly restrictive. So that's another thing that you guys have to understand and take into consideration when we say these certain things, because again, context always matters. And this is why we
Yep.
really pushed to start this podcast, because it's so hard for us to get the context or more of a backstory behind the messaging that we're trying to put out there in 60 seconds or less, where here we can go ahead and open up that conversation and get you guys to really understand that it always depends. It depends, and
Yeah.
context always matters.
Yeah. And listen, like here, let's go through some. I have a couple of examples of actually just recent ones with clients. So one I just spoke to today. When she started with me, she wanted to lose 10 pounds of fat. A couple weeks in, and she was there, like she was practicing. Like I said, she had her habits down, she's in it. Met her where she's at, and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you could do that if you wanted to. There's these other suggestions that I'll provide, but what is it that you want that? Okay, let's do it. 2 weeks in, as we spoke every week, she decided that actually, you know what, maintenance is where she wants to be. Like her goal is not to gain any weight during summer, and she wants to live her life. She wants to do the things with her family, friends, all of that. Said, great, this is actually perfect, let's do that. So for the last 3 months, she has been living at maintenance. And then today, we spoke, touched briefly on, because she does want to enter a fat loss phase. And we talked about what that can look like for her. And I'm like, listen, it doesn't have to be, she's like, oh, I have this trip planned and this and that. I'm like, cool. There's no rule that says you have to do 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If it works for your life where you can do 3 weeks and you're super consistent, dialed in, because she really does only have, like, she wants to lose about 10 pounds of fat, then let's do it. Do it for 4 or 5 weeks, go into maintenance for that vacation, come
Mm-hmm.
back, do another 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You have something else coming up. It might take a tad bit longer, not
Right.
really in the grand scheme of things, but nothing says that you have to be in for like a predetermined.
Consecutive.
Yes, exactly, right. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was a great example for me to share with the audience, that it doesn't have to look like what you traditionally hear or in your mind you perceive it needs to be, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So,
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I
so
love that because essentially,
yeah,
again, you're
so
breaking it up for her. And that's more than fine because you also manage her expectations that, hey, okay, so you want to take it for 12 weeks, but we got to break it up a little bit. So that 12 weeks is going to end up being 14 or 16 weeks. But if it works for you,
perfect.
cool. But also, what a beautiful thing for your client to have that self awareness to say, you know
Yes,
what,
yes,
I'm good this summer. Because I
yeah, yeah,
honestly personally think that it's, unless you've got something like super big going on for the summertime, I honestly think that it's kind of dumb for you to be in a fat loss phase during summer. I don't prefer it. I've tried it. It never works out for me personally, and I'll speak for on me and not for anybody
yeah.
else. But because let's be honest, it's summer. Sun's out. You want to be out having fun. You don't want
Sun's
to
out,
have
guns out.
sun's out, guns
Kidding.
out.
Kidding. You can do baby.
You're getting there. Don't trip.
So stupid. Okay, anyways, yeah.
But like, I mean, you have probably more social things to do in the summer. Also the holidays
For
too. I
sure.
also think it's kind of dumb to do them like during the holidays specifically, meaning like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year, because you already know you're gonna have the case of the fuckets during that time. So, but then again, that's personally just me. Personally me, because I know that I probably won't have the control to do it. If you have that mentality, cool, so be it. But it also, again, you've got to just be honest with yourself when it comes to
So,
that.
yeah, because I know for me, like having, had a lot of weight to lose for a certain period there, I didn't care if it was my birthday. I didn't care if it was the summer. At the end of the day, it's like, I've spent like over 2 decades indulging and doing all the
Mm-hmm.
things. So it's okay if I take like 1 year away from, you know, like tracking on my birthday or tracking during Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and that was okay for me. I don't feel like it was disordered. Again, it's not. You have to do what feels right for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so I do have clients that are in, in a deficit or trying to be in a deficit, and but they also have more weight to lose, and that's okay. And then I have some clients that were completely fine being in a deficit in the summer, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, like you said, it for you it doesn't work, and for
No.
me now it doesn't work either. Like I can't now because
Yes.
I know it's a busier time, lots
Mm-hmm.
going on, my kids, this,
More
that, and it just,
travel, more
yeah,
social stuff.
exactly. And so I don't want to. But again, I'm in a different season of my life now, and I can pick and choose. I'm
Mm-hmm.
content where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want more? For sure, we all do. But it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have, like you said, going back to what you said, it doesn't have to happen today,
Mm-hmm.
right? So another example, I had a client SOS kind of yesterday. And I'm like, can you talk? I'm like, yeah. And so recently, we agreed because she was having issues with her ankle, movement wasn't as high. So what do we do? Okay, you want to see this happening? You want to reduce those calories? Sure, fine, let's do it. Right? Like
Hmm.
we've been working at this for long enough. Let's do it. And so she did. And then we talked yesterday, and it was like, wow, like that's really low. I'm like, I know. Low for her,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I know. And she's like, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm like, I know. I'm like, you were getting results at the other range that we
Hmm.
had you in when you were consistent and when
Uh-huh.
you were adherent for longer than a week. So we're
Hmm.
talking weeks at a time. So let's go back to that. She's like, yeah, let's go back to that.
Hmm. But you
So
gave
it
her the option. You
for
let it
sure.
be her decision, not like, hey, listen,
No.
I'm
Yeah.
the expert at this. This is what it needs to be. No, that's too low. You let her fuck around and find out.
Exactly. And what you're saying, like trial and error, you got to figure it out for yourself. You got to see what works for you. And if in your mind, you were talking about this where clients are like, let's, reduce those calories, right? Like go lower, go lower. But
Hmm.
that's not always, that might not always, we know that might not work because
Hmm.
you and I, like as coaches, we have a specific relationship with our clients. We know them at a different level.
Hmm.
And even though as a coach, like I may know, hey, that's probably not the best solution, it's still my job as your coach to give you what you want, right?
Hmm.
To a
Yeah.
certain degree. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, here's the information. Here's all your tools. You have this. Go for it. Let's see where it takes you. And if it works, it works. If you feel like it doesn't, then what I love to say and reiterate is this is your journey.
Yep.
You get to decide how
Yep.
you want to navigate it, what the parameters are going to look like for you. And there's no one size fits all
Yeah.
approach.
You
That's it.
have the capacity to make the blueprint for you.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
love
had a
that.
client too, the same thing. So we are in a dedicated fat loss phase. We had to take a diet break because she had a lot of things going on, travel and graduation stuff. And she came back and we did a check in and, clothes are fitting better. She feels good. But of course, it's not, the scale's not moving like she wants to. The measurements are moving. Um, and that's a mental thing also that we're working on overcoming is that scale situation. So I said, hey, so here's the thing. Okay, you want to see that scale move more? You have two options:
Yeah.
move more or eat less, or a little bit of both. What do you want?
Yeah.
She's like, well, I'm already kind of low. I don't know if I want to do that. Cool. That's awesome. I gave you the choices. You have the power of choice. What do you want to do? Because if it was me, yeah, I'd say fuck no to the eating less. because
I know.
because for me the name of the game is how much can we eat and still create a deficit. That's the name of the game
Right.
for me because
Right.
like I said, I'm very used to eating fairly high on a high
Yeah.
budget. And so when I lower my budget, I'm like,
I
like acting like
know.
a little crackhead.
Right?
As if it's the end of the world, right? Third world problem.
Yes. Oh, it is. I know.
But when I visually see that number go from here to here, I'm like,
It's a lot. It's a lot.
and then I
Yes.
see the wiggle room very quickly just shrink or become non-existent. I'm like, golly. So she said, I'm going to be honest with you, Carmi. I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to hold myself accountable. I probably haven't been as consistent as you expect me to be.
Mm.
I probably haven't been training with the intensity that you expect of me. I haven't been sending in form videos. I'm kind of just showing up. I'm showing up, but I don't know if I'm showing up at least 80% all the time. So maybe for the next 2 weeks before I check in with you again, and I was supposed to check in with her today, she was going to come train, but she had to reschedule. So I'll see her tomorrow. So I said, okay, until I see you, what's your homework? She's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work on my consistency. I'm going to work on my pre-logging. I'm going to make sure I don't, leave everything to chance. I'm going to be more prepared and I'm going to show up with more consistency. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting in the 4 workouts in that you program for me. I'm going to make sure I get my steps in. And I'm going to make sure that I do the cardio that I say I'm going to do. Cool.
Right.
Awesome. But
Perfect.
she's holding herself accountable. She knows what she has to do. She has her
Yeah.
non-negotiables and she's willing to do that. And then I said,
Right.
if it's still not working, then we're going to have to reassess. She's like, I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. Cool.
Perfect. Exactly. Exactly. That's what we're here for, to
Mm-hmm.
audit, to, see the blind spots,
Mm-hmm.
accountability, support, all of that
Mm-hmm.
good stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, like you said, it is calories in, calories out as
Mm-hmm.
far as a law of thermodynamics is
Mm-hmm.
concerned. Um, it's always, what I like to say, it's, well, how do we work with that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
yes, it is that, but how do we navigate that in your environment
Yes.
and the parameters of your life and all of that? And that's not necessarily a simple endeavor,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it
Yeah.
can be complicated for a lot of people. There's a lot of variables at play, and it sometimes it's just going to take a lot more time.
Yeah.
Um,
Because there's not
you know,
only just science that we have to work with, but there's also mindset and there's also emotional stuff that we have to deal with, because
yeah,
sometimes even all of that, like you can have the most perfect like macros and the most perfect workout, but if there's shit going on in the background with your mindset and your head and your heart, like that can also deter
yeah,
you from what you need to do. And that's also another reason why we stress nutritional periodization, because aside from the science, and if you guys are wondering, like there's science backed behind why you need to periodize your nutrition. Okay. So your metabolism basically learns how to adapt. It's basically adapting to whatever you're giving it at any given time for protective measures. So yes, your deficit will work for a short period of time, but eventually your metabolism is going to catch up. It's going to say, "Oh, homegirl's only feeding me 1500 calories. So now I'm going to stop burning as quickly as I was, and I'm going to adapt to that." So now eventually your caloric deficit calories are going to now be almost your maintenance calories, because your body is basically protecting itself, saying, "Hey, I don't want to burn anymore. I need to protect you. I need to protect us. I need to keep us safe."
and what you mean, I think, by that for the audience is like, you your body will like, you will not, for example, you might not move as much, you might not fidget as much, you might not feel like, I don't know, going for that extra walk that you would have
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, just things like that. Like, there's physiological things that start happening in your body, that you don't see, right,
Mm-hmm.
that get down regulated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so again, it's like you're not burning as much anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
again, calories in, calories out in
Mm-hmm.
that sense.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So sorry, keep going.
No,
I
I mean, that's
I
essentially
just wanted to
it.
clarify that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's essentially it. I mean, honestly, because when people say they quote unquote plateau, that's that quote unquote plateau. The plateau is because now your metabolism has caught up to you. And if you
and
don't,
that's, oh, sorry.
go ahead,
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say, and honestly, that only really happens if you have been super consistent and adherent, like
Mm-hmm.
for weeks on end. We're not
Yes.
talking 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Maybe,
Yes.
maybe there's that odd person out there that might happen to,
No,
like,
we're talking like you've been in your consistent, dedicated
yeah,
fat loss phase for like 4 months, and then now you've plateaued. But like we see all the data and we see what you're doing day in and day out, and then now nothing's moving. Okay, well, yeah, now everything's probably caught up. This is not like, oh, you did it for 2 weeks and then now you're plateaued. It's probably because you did it
yeah,
half-ass for 2 weeks. It looked good at first. You stoked everything, you reignited everything, but then you went to your a-hole ways over the weekend. There's a
right,
difference. There's a
yeah,
difference. But that's why
yeah.
it's important for you to take yourself back into those dedicated maintenance phases. Now, I'm curious for you, because I've done both. Do
Hmm.
you reverse your clients? And when I say reverse, if you guys don't know, like I mean reverse diet,
I
because
want
there
to
was
talk
a
about that.
big thing when I first started in 2020 with macros about reverse dieting. So tell
Yeah,
me.
no, no, no,
Okay, good.
no. I don't care for it. Yeah, I've never done it. If I'm coming out of fat loss phase, I go straight into maintenance.
Okay.
Like, whatever my
Or whatever
budget
you
was, I
think your
don't
maintenance was.
was yeah. Like, you try,
Yeah.
again, it's trial and error for however many weeks
You mean
before
it's
you
a
kind of figure out
science
your range.
experiment all the way through?
I know, all the
What?
time. No, I don't feel like they're, and maybe for some, maybe if they have a really kind of not a healthy relationship with the
Mhm.
scale, maybe they might want to
There's a
ease into it a
small
little
group of people that
bit.
I would do it for.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
small exceptions,
Like very
but
small.
yeah, yeah. But for the majority of people, like it's good for them to see that it's not bad. It's not that bad. Like,
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
them to see the data and to see that, oh yeah, it's just because I have more food and my body. I'm eating more. I'm holding on to more water. Whatever.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm eating a bit more sodium now, more carbs, right? Like all
Yep.
of that. They all go hand in hand. So no, I don't care to, and I won't. So that's just
I'm
my
glad
thing
you
on it.
touched on that because
Yeah.
personally, I can speak from experience that I've done both. Unfortunately,
Okay.
I fell victim to reverse dieting. And I shouldn't
Okay.
say victim, but it's because it's, again, you don't know what you don't know, right? And when I
Right.
had done a macros 101 boot camp where I learned how to do my macros, they promoted that because, again, at the time, that was the fatty thing to do around macros is
Right.
reverse diet. Now is reverse. I'm not going to shit on reverse dieting because, again, like you said, there
No.
is a very select few. I think people who have spent a very, very long time in a fat loss phase, or even like the bodybuilders, I think there is, it can benefit
Room
them
for
to do that. And also people with the mindset who have a hard time with the scale and have a hard time with their body image, I think there probably might be room for that. And I say probably because it's loose. It just depends. It depends on where you're at.
yeah.
Like I really got to sit down with you and think and see where your head's at. So those would probably, for me personally, would be the select few
Yeah.
that I would choose to do that for. I personally did it thinking, again, being afraid of that scale
Yeah.
starting to tick up, right? So I did it during my first two fat loss phases, going back to maintenance. I did it. I did like 200 calories here, 200 calories there, like after 2 weeks. I wish I never did.
Yeah,
Because
because you're
honestly,
essentially in a deficit.
I think I did more damage. And I shouldn't say damage,
Mm.
but for lack of a better word, I think I honestly probably put on more weight doing it that way
Mm.
than just going straight back up to maintenance. So I'll be completely honest with our with our viewers or our listeners. This year is the first year that I didn't reverse. I went straight back up to maintenance.
Nice.
I loved it. I love it. I absolutely love it because guess what? I have balanced out way more quickly. My performance has come back way more quickly. And I feel like my quality of life has gone back up way more quickly. And then there's also less overwhelmed. There's less having to think about what I'm doing. Like, oh, now, okay, now we're going to do 200 calories and then recalculating every fucking thing over again over a
And
6 week time frame versus just boom,
yeah.
go, boom, go,
And
done.
and because if you think about it, reverse dieting essentially, basically we're getting you back up to your maintenance, but like 100 calories at a time a week, whatever that may look like.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially you are in a deficit. So it is already exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And Carmi, you know this, when you and I go into it, it is exhausting, mentally fatiguing after a certain while. Towards the end, you don't even want to be in it. Like you're like angry,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so to slowly ease out of that, I mean, you're just delaying the inevitable. Your scale is going to be where it's at if you go right into it versus six
Mm-hmm.
weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your scale is going to jump regardless, or eventually catch up to that. Um, just albeit a little bit slower. But why put that on yourself
Mm-hmm.
is how I
It's
see it.
more
Like
work than it needs to
it
be.
is. It is. Especially if you're doing individual macros like you were. So you got to
Mm-hmm.
recalculate all that. That's
Mm-hmm.
even more, more difficult to do. And I can imagine more mentally exhausting.
Yeah, because
Um,
you start getting in a like a routine. Like, okay, this is what my food looks like now, and then you're like, oh fuck, I got to change everything again. Like,
right.
why? Why did I do that to myself? Well, I didn't know better. But honestly, I don't believe in the reverse. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I did it on myself because anything that I speak on, I've probably done it for myself first before I speak on it. Like
Oh, for
I've
sure.
science experienced myself before I tell you guys what I'm doing, just to
Yeah.
make sure, because you almost have to, right? You almost have to.
Yeah.
But then again, like it just depends. It depends, but I really don't think it's necessary. And I wish that I didn't wait so long to not do it because honestly, I just feel so much better. I feel like I almost
So,
maybe gained more weight when I was reversing versus just taking my ass straight back to maintenance.
yeah, because you're still struggling, right?
Yeah.
Like mentally, you're still struggling. You're like,
Yeah.
I want to eat more, but I
hmm
can't
Yeah.
because
And
you're
then when I
reversing
took myself
yourself.
to maintenance, I again, I picked a range because when I left my fat
Yeah.
or when I left maintenance originally before my fat loss phase, I was at a range of 2100 to 2300. Again, The numbers don't mean anything, guys, okay? It's all interdependent. It depends on who you are, what your body type is, and your activity level. That these are just my
Yeah.
numbers. So then I took myself down to about 1550, 1600 for my fat loss phase. And then I'm like, okay, well, my maintenance might not be the same, but let's try it and let's see what happens. And literally nothing changed with my protein. My protein stayed the same. All I adjusted was my fats and my carbs.
Yep.
Took it back up. I was like, let me try 2000 and see how I like it. Okay. Nothing happened at 2000. Well, let's push a little bit higher. Now I'm at 2150. Okay. And even me, so even me who has been well versed in this, I had to reach out to my coach. I was like, yo, I'm freaking hungry all the time
Yeah.
still. What is this? Okay. I was like, I am not like, I've told him, I'm like, I'm fantasizing about food as if I'm in a deficit. Like, what's the problem here? I
Mm-hmm,
said,
mm-hmm.
I'm fluctuating only plus or minus 5. Well, plus 5.
Yeah.
Um, bodies, measurements are staying the same. Waist
So,
measurements are staying the same. Do I push calories? He's like, Carmi, you know better than that. He's like, you
yeah.
don't push calories unless you're dropping weight. Like, let it be. He's like, you being hungry is not an emergency. I was like, it's an emergency. It's
It
absolutely
is for me.
I'm like, when I'm looking at the red vines and the ice cream like a fucking gremlin, it's an emergency. Like, what's happening? But again, it was literally like my meal timing. I
Mm,
was going too long in between my lunch
right.
and my dinner because all I had time or all I have time for at work is like a small snack. And so literally now what I have to do is adjust my dinner. Like as soon as I get home, like I almost have to
Mm,
start trying to eat dinner before I start trying to get everything ready for the next day. Because now when I get
mm,
home from work, I'm trying to meal prep all of our food for the next day for work for myself and my husband. And then typically I go into the gym with him to help him train because it's also helping me get like learning how to like train people, have hands on
right.
people, fixing people. And so then now dinner is not even happening till like 7 o'clock where I ate my
Mm,
lunch at 12:30. So now
yeah.
I can't push my lunch break, but I can push when I eat my lunch. I eat it closer to like 1:15, then push my snack a little bit later to like almost when I'm
Mm,
about to leave, and then try to have my dinner. So it was just
yeah.
it's literally meal timing, probably because I was on some medication that was probably making me hungrier, and then Shark
Mm,
Week. So it was a whole bunch of things. But again, back I digressed. I went
yeah.
on a tangent. but
All good.
but like my maintenance, I tried it at 2000, bumped it up to 2100 because nothing was happening, and I was like, okay, let's try it because that was my old maintenance, and then now I'm done. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm good.
Yeah, fair. And like my maintenance range is always changing. I never know because sometimes I'm super active, like
Hmm.
moving a shit ton, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's just my average movement, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just depends. Like you said, it depends on your activity levels, all of that, and why it's a range. But you're pretty much around where you need to be, get within, 100 or so calories, usually. But
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. So it just comes down to, when uh, I always hate to say this. I know we do, but it depends on where you're at and what your goals look like, what you want to achieve.
Hmm.
The main thing is, though, if I feel like if you have been living in this kind of in and out and just yo yo dieting and constantly trying to lose the same 10, 15 pounds, there's a better way.
Yeah. But that's why
Yeah,
you're losing the same 10 or 15
10,
pounds.
15
Is
pounds.
because you're going
Exactly.
to yo-yo back and forth. You're going from one extreme to the other. Like, let me go hard and
Yep.
be keto Kendra and lose like 10 or 20 pounds and then go back to like not being keto.
Yeah.
So now you're eating all the breads and now you're in a calorie surplus or in maintenance. And then now here comes all the weight back. And you're wondering
Yep.
why? Well, because you're not in dedicated controlled phases. I mean,
Right.
does it have to be for forever? No. Do I hope that at some point I will be happy enough with my body? And I guess I say happy enough very loosely because I am already happy with my body. But again, I always want to progress. I'm to this point now where I just want to see how far I can take it. And I'm good with that. Like whatever happens,
Yeah.
happens. Wherever the dice lands, cool. Um, but do I want to get to a point where I'm just like, I don't want to take a fat loss phase at all this year? Yes, I do want to
Hmm.
get to that point. Or if it's just like, hey, okay, I need to fine tune things up. Let me go on a little 4 week mini cut. Do I want to get to that point? Yes. I still have work to do to get there. But then again, it's a process.
Exactly. And you and I talked about this, that Carmie and I are friends outside of this.
We
And I
are.
was telling her, like, I tried.
Just kidding.
Are we?
Just kidding.
I tried. I thought I was going to do another fat loss phase. And like 2 weeks in, I was like, no, no, don't
Hmm.
feel like it. And again, like it just comes back to being content
Hmm.
where I'm at.
Hmm.
Do we want more? For sure. But I'm content. I choose to not do it, and I choose to live in maintenance and thrive in maintenance
Hmm.
and just whatever, do the things, live life.
Hmm.
But that's the difference now, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not that I need to, it's whether or not I want to.
But it
That's
also,
that's a key
too,
difference.
as shitty as this might sound, or as shitty as this might be to hear, she earned that, you guys. She earned the right to do that because she's done the work, not just the aesthetic work, not just the physical work, but also the mental work. Because I told her when she told me that, she's like, I'm gonna try. And I was like, okay. And I encouraged her. I said, well, just try it. Try and see what happens, right? See if you can mentally get there. Because she was very honest with me and herself, like, I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm gonna try it. Okay, cool. Then she came
Yep.
back to me and was like, you know what? I'm not giving it my all. And I told her, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for having that self awareness. Like, your mind's
Yep.
not in it. Because a lot of you guys want to just keep grinding it out when you know you're not mentally there. But she was
Yeah.
able to take a step back and say, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. And
Right.
that was so beautiful because her and I are both in this state now where we're just like, we're good with whatever happens because we know we're not going to ping pong back to our old selves because we've had these habits already stick, and we show up and we do what we can do in whatever given day and however it shows up for us, and we're okay with that.
Yeah. And like, as far as I know, you use the word earn, and here we are a little bit different. I don't. I get what you're saying with earn, and I'm with you in the sense that, and I think we're both thinking the same thing. It's more just, oops, sorry guys. It's more that like I said, circling back to what I said before, this is not something I would have been able to do before. Period. Oh, I hear your dog.
Yeah. Oh,
So I
where's
wouldn't
your
have
hug?
been able.
Baby, she hoy. She
Oh,
hoy
there
there, baby. You gotta go. That's okay.
we go. Well, we're gonna be
Watch out.
finishing this up here soon. But really, at the end of the day, it's about learning and unlearning and going through the process and just figuring it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Putting in the time, just letting it be. It might be for some people, it's just one step at a time, one thing at a time. And so, if I had gone into even like for me, if I had done this initially, it would have felt like extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have felt like another extreme thing that I was doing. And so getting in, getting out would not have worked for me when I first started my journey. Because, like you said, I wasn't there yet. I had
Mm-hmm.
my mindset, I hadn't built the habits, the foundations, I hadn't, the emotional regulation, like all of that came um, as a result of just letting go of the timeline and doing the work and figuring it all out. Now I'm in a position where I can say, yeah, I can get in, get out. And
Mm-hmm.
although it might seem extreme to some, because really you're in it, like we're in it, like we just talked about previously, we are in it like 95%, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that to some might sound extreme and might fall in that definition of what they've been used to or kind of the programs or the
Mm-hmm.
things that they've done in the past. But when you look at it from the perspective and lens of um, science based, calories, tracking, understanding nutrition, all of that, it actually isn't. But it takes time for you to get to that point where you understand all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't seem extreme anymore
Yeah.
because it's not. It's not,
Because we
right?
don't have to think about it and so much as we had to at the beginning. Like,
Right.
it
Yeah.
just it's like a dance now. It's muscle memory for us. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we just show up. We know what we got to do. Like, if we can't get every single box checked, cool. How many boxes can we check there where we can be like, okay, I'm happy with what I did today. And for some of you, it might be 1 or 2 boxes, but that's cool because
Yep.
that's 1 or 2 boxes that you checked off that you didn't check off yesterday or last week.
Exactly.
So it's that, and
Exactly.
that's when I say she earned it. She earned it because she
Yeah.
put the reps in. She
Right.
continued to show up. She didn't stop showing up when it got hard. When it got
And
hard,
like
she said,
you.
okay, what can I do? What is in my control? Because the rest of the shit's not right now.
Yeah. It's all practice.
Yeah, it
Practice,
is.
right?
Yeah.
So, and we're still learning. Like you said, this was the first time that you came out of a fat loss phase and went straight into maintenance, right?
Yep.
So we're all learning. But yeah, my
But
kid's
very,
making a ton of noise in the background.
okay, really quickly, because we didn't talk about a bulk. I'll just talk about it really
Oh, yeah,
quickly.
go ahead.
So basically, a bulk is exactly what it sounds like. You eat in a surplus. Okay. And when we see surplus, we don't mean like 600, 800, 1,000 calories. It's literally like maybe 2 to 400. And I might be wrong on those numbers, but I think that
Yeah.
that's more than enough because, again, it's 2 to 400. 400 might even be pushing it. I think probably 200 on a daily basis is more than enough. And essentially, the type of person that wants to do that is a bodybuilder who wants to go compete in a show, maybe if you've already exhausted being at maintenance for a very long time. Okay. There's the
Right.
context. There's the little asterisk with that. Because most general lay people, maintenance is more than enough to build muscle. Or the other person would be like the other avatar would be somebody who's very, very lean, because maintenance might not get you there. But I would always encourage people to try to build and see what you can build in maintenance before you take yourself into a surplus, because it may just not be necessary. And so, like in a very quick little box, that's essentially what a surplus or a caloric bulk looks like.
Yeah, and most of you probably, if you're Gen Pop, just trying to look at losing fat, like
If you just want to
that's not
look
even,
hot in a
doesn't
bikini,
even
don't
have,
worry about it.
it doesn't even have to be on your radar. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's yeah, well, no, we'll end it there. I think we covered off a lot, and you hear my kid, so we're gonna call it.
We're calling it. Mom life
Yeah.
is life in right now. We gotta go. It's your son, my dog, the cat, my kid.
Everybody, again, share this episode with your friends, whomever, if you felt like it helped you and it can help someone else. And with that, I guess we'll call it. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.